it from the explosion because it just happened.
Mm-hmm. Did you see any people over there?
No, we didn't, but a couple of us heard some people saying some things. I'm not sure what they were, but we knew that there were some people in there.
How did you know that? Someone told you so, or did you see anything like that?
No, we just heard their voices.
You could hear their voices?
Yeah.
Of the folks who were inside?
What's that?
You could hear the voices of the folks who were trapped inside?
Yeah, you could barely hear it, but you could tell somebody was in there.
You couldn't make out anything they were saying, just sounds?
No, just pretty much just like people yelling, or it wasn't...
Okay.
I really couldn't tell.
The explosion rocked much of the Lehigh Valley and beyond last night. Now, people from up to 50 miles away called into Channel 69 News last night, as you just heard, to tell us they felt the blast. Right now, we are looking at a live picture this morning. You can see the devastation and the rubble, the building just torn apart, just in shreds. Officials say the explosion caused major structural damage to the CSI building. 2 chemicals were released when the blast went off, hydroxylamine and potassium hydroxide. Officials say the 2 chemicals are corrosives, and rescue crews are wearing protective gear to be safe. They're only letting in 1 rescue team at a time, consisting of 1 fire and 1 rescue crew. Officials are worried if they let more than 1 team into the wreckage, the building could collapse even more. They're looking into air pockets and using small cameras to try to find some of the victims. And once again, 3 to 4 people are still unaccounted for, and you are looking at a live picture right now this morning.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the situation has not changed all that much from the several hours ago. And 3 to 4 people still unaccounted for. They're concerned for hypothermia. And even at 2 o'clock at a news conference they held then, the officials were not sounding as hopeful as they had been that those 3 or 4 people would be found. But the search does continue.
And we will continue with our special edition of Channel 69 News at sunrise in just a moment.
Welcome back. You're watching a special edition of Channel 69 News at sunrise. We've been keeping you up to date on last night's explosion in Hanover Township. Concept Sciences Incorporated is where it happened, and this is a live picture of the scene this morning. The place has been leveled. Concept Sciences Incorporated, a chemical company where the blast happened at about 8:15 last night. The plant's located in an industrial park near Lehigh Valley International Airport. At this hour, a little after 6, rescue crews are still on the scene, working to free as many as 4 people, 3 to 4 people, they say, who they believe are buried underneath rubble here. Officials tell us the last time they had any contact with any of the victims was 9:30 last night when they heard a woman's voice, but they say they've not heard anything since then. Rescue workers have been using special remote cameras and audio equipment to try to find the victims who are still buried underneath the rubble at CSI. As for other victims, officials say 8 people have been taken to local hospitals. Their conditions range from critical to treated and released.
Rescue dogs were also brought in to try and help with the search, but officials say because of high pH levels, the dogs are not being used inside of the building.
Because of pH levels, we're not using the dogs in the blast building itself. Okay, if we're requiring first responders to wear self-contained breathing apparatus and air purification units, we're not going to submit the dogs to that same type of thing either. We have been using the search dogs with the other two buildings which were across the area, just as a precaution.
The 8 people transported.
Yes.
How many were employees of CSI or in the building or whatever, as opposed to rescue workers or firefighters or whatever?
Two of the patients were from the building itself.
From CSI?
Yes.
And the rest were?
Not real sure on that.
The rest is a breakdown of either employees from area buildings, first responders. The conditions I would characterize as being anything from treated and released up to critical condition, as Mr. Conklin had pointed out. Some of that information is still somewhat less than detailed for us, but you are now up to date with respect to those 8.
How tall was this?
That report was taped earlier at 2 o'clock this morning with the latest update. Now, of the 8 people taken to the hospital, only 2 of those were actually pulled from the CSI building. No word on their conditions, but we do know that 2 of the 8 people are still in critical condition this morning.
At the height of The incident last night, residents living near Concept Sciences chemical plant were told to stay inside and to keep their doors and windows closed. Officials had been concerned for a while that fumes from the explosion could be harmful, but they later learned nearby residents were pretty safe all along.
No danger. The air is fine. The air has been fine since the very beginning. And really the state police who are in charge of this particular area of the county and Hanover Township have just done an outstanding job of putting this effort together. You've seen what's been going on. You know, you always worry before a disaster whether or not we're prepared. Tonight's a very good example that although it's been a tough night, we're very prepared.
Lehigh County Executive Jane Baker speaking late last night, and at that point she was still concerned about those 3 to 4 people who were trapped in there, and unfortunately they've not been able to make progress in that respect to find the 3 to 4 people. Even at this hour, they're still looking for them in the rubble.
Okay, stay with us. We'll have much more in just a moment. Welcome back. You are watching a special edition of Channel 69 News at sunrise this morning. We are here to tell you the very latest about an explosion that happened last night in Hanover Township around 8:15.
And unfortunately, all the work continues there at Hanover Township, looking for people caught in the rubble where the explosion took place. Channel 69's Wendy Davis is live with us right now in the Hanover Township area. Wendy, what can you tell us?
Well, Rob, we still don't know much now, 10 hours after the blast occurred. What we do know is that PP&L has shut off all the power in that surrounding area, and for that reason, fire police are keeping everyone a safe distance from there. We're probably about 2 miles now from the site. We're at the post office where we will be getting the latest information. They've scheduled a press conference for 9 a.m., and that's when they said they'll tell us what they do know. So far, we know what we reported earlier, that there are 8 people at local hospitals, 2 in critical condition, and there could be 3 to 4 people still trapped inside the rubble. They have an urban recovery team with dogs going through the rubble. They said they use small cameras to try to look through any air pockets to try to see if anybody's in there, and that's really what they're concentrating all their efforts on now. For the hour or so that we've been in this parking lot, we've seen a lot of ambulances going and returning from the scene. Whether they have people with them, we don't know. We're also know that they have about 100 workers on the scene, and they said right now they're really worried about worker fatigue. So there's also a lot of shift changing going on, but that really is the latest that we know. We do know that there are 3, possibly 4 people stuck inside, and that is all they're telling us at this time.
All right, Wendy, thanks very much for the update, and we'll be back to you a little bit later on, I'm sure.
Okay, thanks a lot, Wendy. Now, as you know, we have been following the recovery efforts going on at the scene of last night's explosion in Hanover Township. Right now, officials are telling us as many as 4 people, you just heard Wendy tell us, are still trapped underneath that rubble. The blast happened just after 8 o'clock last night and sent shock waves up and down the Lehigh Valley, from as far north as the Poconos to as far south as Berks County. And near the scene of the blast, officials report broken windows in nearby buildings and debris scattered across a wide area, including portions of Route 22.
And here's a little more of what local officials say happened last night in Hanover Township.
Point at 20:35 hours today in Hanover Township, Lehigh County, we had a building explosion. The building is at 749 Roble Road. The business is Concept Sciences, and what they do is some distilling work for a process, several processes. There was a chemical involved, hydroxylamine, HYDROXYLAMINE.
Spell it again, please.
HYDROXYLAMINE. And apparently during the, just what we possibly think is during the distillation of this, something happened. There was some type of release in a cloud-type form, which left a deposit on some of the area. We went ahead and we made appropriate announcements over television emergency alert system for people to precautionarily shelter in place. At this point, there's no concern for toxicity. If people have this, according to our hazmat people and the Department of Environmental Protection from the state, any type of residue from this material should be washed off with soap and water. If you have it on your person, a shower, something like that.
And we will be right back with more on this explosion in Hanover Township, Lehigh County.